Okay.
All right, yeah, looks pretty good. Did you shave, by the way?
Oh, what this or
Yeah.
the?
Well, no, like you usually have a beard. That's what I.
Oh, yeah, I can share. Is it the? Yeah, let me. All right. If you can wait like a few minutes, I could do that. Yeah, all self-conscious about this.
No, no, no. I mean, let's just do it and see how it comes out. And if it's like we're like, he looks so ugly or whatever, then we'll do it again. Brad, thanks for coming on the call.
Thanks.
Good to have you. How have you been?
Yeah, no, VJ, it's a real pleasure to get a chance to talk with you. I know that we've been working together on a few other things. We spoke before at JavaScript LA, and it's good to kind of finally make this one happen.
For everybody watching this video, eventually, we're doing this on a Saturday morning, a little early, but just it's not early for you actually, right? It's you're on you're in Texas now, I guess.
Central Time, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Moved to Texas just a little bit ago, so yeah.
And how are you liking the life out there?
Yeah, it's been relaxing. It's spent a lot of time with my fiance's family and some other friends here, so it's been good. I mean, it's not as fast paced as LA, but good barbecue, things like that.
So for everybody who doesn't really remember or doesn't know, Brad was he gave a talk on Vue.js, an intro to Vue.js. It was a well-received talk. It's still on our YouTube channel as one of our more highly viewed talks. So congratulations on that, Brad. Brad used to run a Vue.js group in Los Angeles near Venice, and I think it was called Vue.js Meetup, right?
LA Vue.js.
LA Vue.js. Okay, so he used to run LA Vue.js, and he also worked at Retina.AI. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I'm with Retina right now.
Okay.
So CTO and co-founder. It's my fourth startup. Had a number of other startups in the area. First one was an email marketing platform. Second one was a lead gen company, performance marketing. Third one is online crowdfunding. So
very cool.
It's always been pretty interesting to kind of play with technology and helping to grow teams and make things deliver and be part of the LA ecosystem for doing that. So.
Very nice, very nice. And you were able to just kind of afterwards, I think you said it was your fiance who wanted to come to Texas, is that correct?
Yeah, her family's here.
Okay, so you guys were able to just kind of make a remote move, which was pretty nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Are you still using Vue.js then?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Retina has a web portal, and we're using Vue.js on top of the Nuxt framework.
Right, I remember.
Yeah, and done using serverless for the deployment.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice and easy to kind of manage that and get it scalable and whatnot. So we there's actually a little a Nuxt and serverless sort of framework thing that I published as an open source thing, just kind of show folks how I did that.
With your background, I mean, do you feel you want to continue doing meetups? Are you interested in creating a Vue.js meetup out there? Are you gonna give talks again?
Yeah, actually, I was just this week. I'm a MIT alum and hooking up with the local MIT alumni club here, putting on a data science and AI event with the club actually in October, and also I was just talking with professor of entrepreneurship at a local university here, and she had started this group called Tech Tuesdays. And so actually she was kind of looking for someone to help take that over. So it's not specifically Vue or whatnot, but kind of sort of see if there's something to do there. It's at a local pub where the owner is also a web developer. So it's this interesting sort of thing.
Do you feel like the tech scene is pretty strong in Austin, Texas? Because one of the questions I always get, do you think the job market is moving out of LA, or do you feel like it's kind of moved off to Texas? Do you feel like there's a lot more like, the scene out there, or is it relatively the same?
So first of all, I'm in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Okay.
But the two, like, Austin tends to be a little bigger for certain types of tech, and then Dallas, and then I'm actually in Fort Worth, which is adjacent to Dallas. So yeah, I'd say it's different. So Dallas has like the national headquarters of a lot of different major companies, like American Airlines, or like TI is there, or all sorts of things. So it's a lot more IT than like small little groups of folks doing, startup-y things. They are building more of that. Yeah, as to like where people are going, there definitely is an acknowledgement that really everybody's finally getting now that the high cost of living for some of the like San Francisco in particular.
Right.
Folks are moving out of that because all you're doing is just paying folks rent.
Really
right?
expensive rent. Yeah. Like San Francisco is just too expensive. I don't understand like how people like rationalize it. Especially given. I mean, you make a lot of money, but I mean, you also lose a lot of it just through the city. So.
Yeah. I don't know if you've seen some of those like economic reports that folks do about. You take like median income, say for software developers or whatnot, and then you sort of subtract out sort of median rent. And actually, San Francisco turns out pretty bad when you do that calculation. LA is kind of middle of the road on that, and then actually Dallas and Austin and whatnot are actually pretty good. So
that's great. I mean, that's one of the talking points that I always hear is that if you're going to be doing any kind of web dev, do it in a city where, like the cost of living isn't too high. I think in cities like San Francisco, sometimes it's like probably like 60 to 90% of your income if you're, depending where you're living. So, like in Austin, in Dallas, where you work, or you're close to Dallas, do you feel that like that the money that you earn, you can buy a house essentially if you wanted to?
Oh yeah, probably more than one. So.
Oh, more than one. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's great.
So fortunately, we're staying at a house that's owned by Fiance's parents. They were about to sell it, and then sort of like fortunately we decided to kind of move here. So but just taking over the mortgage and whatnot. But that's less for that than for a 4-bedroom house than was doing for like a 2-bedroom apartment. So.
Wow.
Yeah, and actually in this area, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, at least in 2017, it was like state reports, real estate prices raised at 10% per year in 2017 anyway. So it's definitely 2018, but yeah, things are going up, so it's growing. There's a lot of folks
of course. Yeah.
Dallas is one of the potential HQ2 locations for Amazon, so that's sort of, yeah.
Right. So there's that too. If Amazon decides to come out to Dallas or Texas in general, then yeah, I mean, more people are just going to come, and I don't know, maybe the time to buy is like right now. I'm speaking strictly as somebody who just is interested in that kind of thing. So yeah. So I was connecting with some friends of mine that live in this area north of Dallas called Plano, and that's actually where Toyota moved their headquarters. From Florence in LA to Plano, and I mean in Plano and adjacent city Frisco, like real estate prices have really gone up, and a lot of new developments because of that. So, all right, that's good. Let's see here. I guess the next thing I would say is one question that I always hear is I know React, I know Angular. Why do I need to learn Vue? Like, maybe like for those who are a little uninitiated and probably just kind of watching this for the first time, haven't really seen your video, like maybe just kind of like a recap, like why do you care like about Vue so much as opposed to like other stuff, and why not just do it with like regular JavaScript or whatever?
Yeah. I mean, and not to say that people can't, and indeed, they have been plenty successful using the other frameworks, right? but Vue, I think, makes a lot better use of the abstractions because ultimately any framework you do is an abstraction between yourself and the browser, right? And what's going on with that. So in React, for example, when it makes its templates and does the HTML things, it's really JavaScript that sort of JSX that kind of like masquerades as HTML, and it gets a little awkward. And it's less of the like sort of what you see is what you get when you say open up your DOM Explorer or whatnot and kind of like look at your elements. It's a little different than what you're actually going to see in your code there. Angular does a much better job of that, especially with components and whatnot. As far as like things looking more like HTML, your HTML templates look like HTML, right? But some of the abstractions in like Angular 1 would get really obtuse as to how to do things, and it'd be easy to kind of do it wrong. You'd mix up your controller, and you'd mix up your factory or things like that. And so with Angular 2 and beyond, there's it's a little bit cleaner, but still like there's like a lot of there's a steeper learning curve involved in kind of to try to make it work, and they're always like changing things. You have to all use TypeScript, that sort of thing. You have to do it one way, and you have to keep changing that. For Vue, the thing that I really like is if you look at a Vue template, your JavaScript is written in JavaScript. If you want to, you can use TypeScript or some variant of that. Your template, right, can be sort of a Vue template, which pretty much looks like HTML. So your HTML looks like HTML, and your CSS looks like CSS. It's just nice and simple. And then all the wiring up about like making things work and whatnot is kind of done for you. So yeah.
How long would you say it takes to learn Vue as opposed to just something else? Like React or Angular. What do you think is like the speed learning time?
Yeah, I mean, without actual numbers.
Like just for yourself, not for like not for. I'm not speaking generally. Like how long did you think? Like did you have like? And I guess maybe it's another good segue. Like before you learned Vue, like what were you doing?
Sure. So we've done Angular for a number of major applications in some of my previous companies. Control panels and sort of like backend dashboards and like things like that. Even before that, actually jQuery, and I built actually a framework on top of jQuery that created sort of domain-specific language. It's sort of like the same sort of things you do in an Angular or Vue template, where you kind of mark things up within the HTML and it makes things sort of animated and happen. And that was all done with jQuery. But then also we did, some of the parts of our internal dashboard that we wanted high performance with, we're doing in React. So React inside of Angular. And then like just in hobby projects and things like that, some open source projects related to React. I would say that Vue maybe is like twice as fast to learn as the others. I would sort of challenge that. If someone's like, you're starting to learn web development, you learn your HTML, you learn your CSS, you learn your JavaScript. Well, then like it transitions very nicely into, and here's Vue, right? Just kind of keep it all like nice and clean. So also Vue is very well documented. I think it's really one of its big sort of like promising initial things. So
as far as build systems, like what do you recommend out there now?
Yeah. Well, everyone's kind of settled on Webpack these days, right? Actually, Rollup is also coming along.
Actually, why is it that everybody likes Webpack? What's so great about Webpack?
I think that it's killer app with hot reloading. That's really, so the fact that it makes all of its dependencies explicit, so you change this one, SAS file, which then outputs this CSS, which then goes into this component, which then goes into this page, and all of a sudden, like, Webpack knows about all of that, so the minute you change your SAS file, your page updates with that change. Right? And so being able to make all of that happen, the fact that it, started going into these frameworks that would be like universal apps at the time, sort of caught that same trend where, it would render sometimes server-side, render sometimes client-side, just adding those capabilities. Not to say that one couldn't have done that with like Grunt or Gulp or some of the previous things. Did quite a lot of things with Gulp back in the day. It's much more powerful, Webpack. But it also added a lot of complexity, right? So there's a fairly steep learning curve, and people often will work best when they build on something, a layer above Webpack. That's why, I enjoy the Nuxt framework for Vue, which is sort of like a Webpack orchestrator thing. So the CLI that Evan Yu, the creator of Vue, has been sort of like building an abstraction layer on top of Webpack using that, just to kind of make it easier to use. The one that actually we've been playing around with a little bit is Rollup.
Right, I have heard about that.
Simpler, but more focused. It does less, but it just does it well. What it'll do is it will roll up your node packages and do various transforms on those. Okay. So say you want to write in ES7 or something, and then you want to compile down to ES5, right? Or just have all your packages and your dependencies all work that way with proper shims and all that sort of stuff. Just Rollup's just simpler to do just that.
Are you using Sass at this point only, or have you guys moved on into maybe using the latest I think is CSS inside JavaScript?
Yeah. I'm actually not so much a fan of your CSS not looking like CSS anymore. If you want to bundle it up with your components, a Vue component works great for that. And the idea is that you just, as part of the component, you can bundle up some styles and make that happen. But if you use Sass inside of that, you can also set some variables that get overridden by other or pull defaults from other global files or like a template that it might inherit from or things like that. So you can have a lot of flexibility with Sass because you're sort of programming it with variables and little transforms and whatnot. It's the idea of CSS and JavaScript I think comes in that same sort of thing from the React sort of world where everything is JavaScript. Your HTML is JavaScript, your CSS is JavaScript, right. And whatnot. And there are advantages because then you can have explicit sort of what imports what and what depends upon what and that sort of thing. But I think Vue again does that a bit more cleanly.
Yeah.
As far as how people will do CSS as well, there's some pretty interesting sort of ways where people will do it. Use BEM, for example, so block element modifier. You can do these sort of atomic CSS, where each little bit of CSS describes some behavior about line height or font size or that sort of thing. I think just making sure that you have a consistent approach to that.
Before I close out the building, the web dev stuff, I wanted to hear a little bit about working with AWS and serverless. That tends to be a huge topic around our programming community right now. Everything is kind of moving away from traditional server stacks to more microservices, and then paying for what function time you use or something like that. So, how big of a deal do you think that is right now? Do you think most companies should just start waking up and moving towards that kind of build structure, or do you think people should still do it the old way they used to? What's the reason?
Serverless is real, right? It really does deliver on some of its main promises, one of which is higher utilization. So the idea is you are just paying for what you're actually using, right? And the other one is that you get that sort of scale, so you don't have to worry about your infrastructure. You're not sort of patching operating systems or worrying about that sort of thing. Lastly, just make things it's just a simpler development experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
As making things happen. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you should use it for everything.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So for example, some of our big like AI sort of things, we just need a different sort of framework. You need much more control of the hardware and the memory and CPU and whatnot.
Yeah, of course.
So, yeah, we'll just want to, So there'll also be certain things where like your framework really needs to sort of run hot in order to make itself run well. You need to like just-in-time compiling or things like that. A lot of these, like under the hood, actually, serverless, all these like functions as service are actually using Docker under the hood.
Right.
It's interesting. And they'll, like AWS in particular, it'll run multiple levels of hotness as it keeps going. Sometimes it might actually keep a server running with your sort of server, and it might just send multiple different requests to the same one. So you actually get a lot of that advantage. But if you're not aware of what it's doing, and you just are running something that runs very occasionally, you can run into a problem where it will have cold starts. And it might take like 15, 20 seconds or so to actually even start executing your function. And that can be a problem for basic applications. Yeah. The other things that I've seen people go wrong with serverless things actually is when, unfortunately, it's all the intro guides sort of show you to do this, and I think it's a bit of an anti-pattern, is if you make a separate function for every single endpoint, then all your endpoints are cold. And they will always have to be started, cold each time you try to access it. So you'll have incredibly high latencies throughout your whole system if you don't have high volumes of activity flowing through it all the time. Rather, the way that kind of we ended up implementing things is to take advantage of, web routing via, just normal sort of like node service, to take advantage of that the way that it's supposed to run. Yeah, and let your routing happen at that layer.
Okay, let's go on to just more about yourself. Like I think you have a landing page framework, and you did SEO. Tell me about those things. Like why did you mark them as bullets for a conversation?
So there was so my second startup, is a lead generation performance marketing company. And so the way that the business would work is we would buy clicks from a variety of different sources for consumers who are interested in some product or service. We would then show them the various brand compliant information about what they were trying to potentially buy, and then they'd submit their phone number and email address, and then we'd sell that on to like a call center, or folks actually call them and complete the sale. Mm-hmm. There would be a lot of like iterations that folks would do on these different landing pages, like all the time. You might put this ad in there. You might want to do a test with that one. You want to ask this question for that question. You need to ask a few different qualifying questions to see if they qualify for the thing you're trying to sell them. So just to give you some context, so for example, we would sell to Dish Network. Okay. So Dish call centers, right? So buy traffic for people who might be interested in signing up for Dish, and then show them some landing page that advertises $20 a month something or whatnot, right? And then have them like answer a few qualifying questions, like do you own a home, or do you rent, or whatnot? Do you have a credit card, that sort of thing. And if they qualify for everything, then we would collect that phone number or email address and send that on. So there'd be like lots of variations of this that people would do all the time. And so rather than having a lot of the web developers just like constantly rebuilding these things and adding in, say, your telephone number validation and hooking that into the tracking database so that it gets routed to the right place, or making sure that like this question's answered before you move on to the next one, all that sort of thing, made a sort of a domain-specific language is sort of the technical term for the thing, taking up these various ways of marking up HTML using data attributes, which is part of the HTML spec, and some CSS classes, and then hooking in jQuery code on top of that, jQuery-based code on top of that, which would then listen for those data attributes and classes and figure out what to do with it.
Okay, this was like before Vue, right?
Huh?
This is kind of like before Vue.
Is that before Angular, actually?
Oh, before Angular, okay.
Yeah, I mean, what it did do is it just did the things you needed to do, which is, collect user information and validate it, and then show them the next question, and then show them an ad, right? And did that very, very easily. So you could have, manage like hundreds and hundreds of these landing pages changing all the time with like the deals, like, some of them would be able to run at certain times and others you couldn't run at other times and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, it was all proprietary, so yeah.
Yeah, but I like hearing you describe it, I kind of have an idea. Oh, okay, this is what you're kind of doing behind the scenes. Okay, yeah, let's finish out here. Like, I guess, so we already kind of know you're MIT. What is it like when you say education? Like what's your mission behind that? Like, why are you teaching?
Yeah. So, actually, it's been a personal thing of mine that I enjoy teaching and spreading sort of knowledge. At MIT, sort of, I was a physics TA for a number of different things, and then actually got involved with these online teaching programs to help to teach students about physics. One of which would, for example, let you work through your physics problems online, and if you had sort of problems with different things, you would sort of dynamically break it down into different pieces, and then keep track of a student's skill with different types of things, like can you solve this algebraic problem, can you draw a vector diagram, that sort of thing. It eventually was sold on to Pearson Learning Group, the folks who make a bunch of like academic textbooks and whatnot.
Right.
So, yeah, that was cool to see. I was actually, back in the day thinking I might have gone, done teaching. Then I found like being able to do sort of technology, there was a fair amount of like sharing and helping to nurture teams as well and grow them. So I really enjoyed that side of that. And then that actually like lent into really what helps me with why I like some of these communities, because they're about people sharing and learning from each other.
Right. So you plan to keep doing that, like as far as the meetup groups, you plan to just keep do you want to like maybe spend part of your time teaching like how to do like all these different things like machine learning, Vue.js, just transferring knowledge.
But moonlighting as it.
Moonlighting. Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's finish out. Do you have any like final things you want to say? Maybe like talk a little about. I know you wrote like Buddhism, like.
Yeah. So like sort of like teaching kids about Buddhism and then spreading that. I think that maybe it's an aspect that doesn't get involved as well it could be in some of the technology world, and people might get sort of like worked up. And let me just like here's one really fast example of that. The idea in Buddhism is that we cause our own suffering, right? Our own sort of things by our own sort of hang-ups and whatnot. So if you recognize that, these various drives that people have and like needs and wants and whatnot are the things that sort of cause that, can help you to, just relax a little bit more about it.
Yeah,
and
I agree with
that. Just have a little more happiness in what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. You're super busy. You have so much going on. I just wonder how you keep it all together.
I'm actually putting together a Buddhist group here in Texas. It's about to rush off and do that right now. So.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, then this is a good point to stop. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. And we'll be in touch. Thanks a lot again. This was a good talk.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Vijay.
Yeah, for sure. All right. See ya. Bye.
Bye.